Okay, folks, let's do this again. My apologies. Um, I don't know what I did. I guess I forgot to turn the mic on the camera the last time. So let's go over this one more time so you get the gist of how to do a loop start with a single strand of floss on, say, 25, 28 count fabric or something that you're working over one. So here we go. You probably got the general idea from the video with no sound, but let's add a little voice to that, and we're going to go down at number 4. Okay, so this would be the 4th hole of the stitch that you're going to make. All right, you're going to come up on hole number 2, which is right aside of it. Okay, now you're going to make your loop. And be careful that your thread does not twist on itself, because that kind of makes it funny to go through when you're pulling it back down through the hole. So we're going to make our loop. And this is just a repeat of what was in the previous video on starting with a loop start. You're going to come up in hole number 1, go through your loop, and don't get your finger caught on the thread and pull it through. So you're going to come up number 1, go through your loop, okay, pull it through, and then go back down in hole number 2. Okay, so that is your loop start. That was in the previous video. Okay, so now you're going to go back down, complete your X in hole number 4. Now you're going to stitch a few stitches, or however many of that color. Now, one thing I do, you can cut this thread off at this point in time and trim it close to your fabric. The other thing you could do is, when you're making your next X, catch that little tail in that X, and actually, this anchors it even more. Stitch over it for a stitch or two, and it hides it. You will not see it. And this really only works if you have more than, just one stitch. But if you have 2 or maybe even 3 stitches of the same color, stitch over that end, and now clip it close. Let's see. Let me get a smaller scissors here. Oh, good Lord. Oh, here we go. Ah. Okay. Here we go. So now you can just pick that up, trim it very close. Okay. And let's do another stitch here so that we can get that tail hidden. Okay. And that not only really anchors it securely, but it also hides it. And once again, you're doing all your work on the top. You're not having to flip over. So you can just hide it in those top few stitches. That is, if you're doing multiple stitches of the same color. Okay. Now, we've done all the stitches of this color and we want to end. So really, that's what this video is about. And before I forget, I had said this in the one with no sound. For this, I really want to thank Joyce Vandenhout. Oh, Joyce, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Joyce is the one that shared this technique with us on the Love of Diagonal Stitching group. And I really like it as the way to end threads. It has really been a game changer. And I did talk to Joyce the other day and asked if she minded if I included this in a video on my YouTube channel, and she was gracious enough to allow me to do so. So on multiple levels, Joyce, I thank you so, so very much. I really appreciate it, and gosh, I'm kind of jealous. Why didn't I think of this? But I am so glad you played around with it and came up with it, because it really is a fantastic way to end your thread. So we've stitched all the stitches here that we want to stitch of this color. So we want to end this thread. We're done with it. So what we're going to do in order to end with the loop the way we started is we are going to go down in hole number 2. Okay, and we're going to complete the first part of our X. Okay, next we're going to come up in hole number 3 as if we're going to cross that X again, but instead we're going to go down again in hole number 3 and create the loop just like we did when we started. So I have a loop here. Now you're going to come up in hole number 4 and go through your loop and pull it. Okay, and then once again go back down in hole number 3 and pull that loop through. And now your X is finished. There we go. Now your X is completed. You might want to fuss with it just a little bit. There you go. Okay. And to get rid of your thread, then you want to just go a few fabric threads away and do what we're calling a tacking stitch. So you want to split the fabric thread as if you're going to do a pin stitch, but instead of doing a pin stitch, just go up, and you don't have to like split the double threads. Just go take a little bite and go down, and then come up again and cut it off. Okay, that little thread carry underneath is going to be stitched over with other stitches, and that is going to help to secure it. And believe me, these don't come undone. We were talking the other night in our stitching room, and somebody had to frog one, and they had a heck of a time getting it undone. So I'm going to just assume we've stitched, let's go underneath here, it gives us more room. I'm going to just assume we've stitched some stitches. Here, let me do an away here and come up, and I'm going to stitch one X. And the next X, I will do it again on how to end. Okay, so we're stitching merrily along. My next X, I'm done with this color, so I'm going to come up, create the first leg, come up in hole number 3, make my loop, so I'm going back down in hole number 3. I'm going to come up in hole number 4, which will be the completion of my X, go through the loop, go back down in hole number 3, pull the loop through, okay, do a thread carry on the back, pierce my fabric thread, do a little tacking stitch, and excuse me, and cut my thread off. Okay, so that's how you end. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. It is just the simplest thing, and it takes far less thread. I think you will save thread by doing it this way. Just my opinion, but I've started and ended all my threads this way now the past few days, and it's been wonderful. Now, one more thing I want to show you quickly, and again, this was on the previous one, but you couldn't hear what I was saying. And again, my extreme apologies for that. I thought the mic was on my little camera here, and no, it wasn't. So that's why we're redoing. If you have a ninja stitch, you have one stitch of a color and there is nothing else around. You don't have that color further down in your diagonal. You don't have it in the next one. You don't have it for another 50 stitches, and it is that one isolated stitch. Here's what you can do. Okay, let's start with the loop start, and don't let your needle unthread like mine constantly unthreads, and then I get frustrated. Okay, but we're keeping it real here, folks. Okay, so we're going to start like we started before. We're going to go down in 4, come up in 2, make the loop, come up in 1, go through the loop, pull it through, and that was our starting stitch. Okay, that was how we start. So that's how we do. Now we need to end it right away because it's the only stitch. Okay, so we're going to come up in 3. We're going to make our loop. Don't let them twist on each other. We're going to come up in 4. Okay, and we're going to go through our loop, and we're going to go back down in 3, and there we go. And then we're going to go a couple threads away, make that little tack, come up again, trim this off, and trim that off. And now we have one stitch. Started with a loop start, ended with a loop end, and on our merry way we go. So I will do that one more time for you. Okay, we're going to go down in 4, up in 3, down in 3, up in 1, and go through the loop, back down in 3, I'm sorry, back down in 2, I'm so sorry, 1, 2, so we went down in 4, up in 2, back down in 2 to make the loop, up in 1, through the loop, down in 2, up in 3, back down in 3, make our loop, up in 4, through the loop, back down in 3. And my needle unthreaded again. Oh man, where'd my thread go? There it is. And pull it through, and then do your little tail, make your tacking stitch, clip it off, clip this off, and you're good to go. So there you have it. How to start with a loop start, single strand, stitching over 1 on whatever count fabric you are using. It works on every count. Ending with a loop finish with a single strand on whatever count fabric you're using. It works like a charm. I have totally loved it, and I hope you do too. And once again, Joyce, thank you so much for coming up with this and sharing it with everyone and allowing me to make this video to show people how to do that. So enjoy. I hope it helps your stitching. I really do think it will help the bulkiness on the back of your fabric, that you shouldn't get so much bulk from starting and ending threads. Let me know how it works for you. And with that, I am going to say goodbye and see you next time, and happy stitching.